everyone. I am so excited to see that we packed this house. That's a surprise and a really nice one. And I see some faces I don't know, which is even better. So we are here tonight to officially release the 2019 High Risk and Homeless Youth Report. And I'm not going to put you through a long lecture on the numbers. They are publicly available for anybody who wants them, but I will give you just a few. Our point in time count number for youth between the ages of 13 and 24 was 144. That includes young people that are literally homeless. That is, they're sleeping in a place not intended for habitation. It includes youth that are staying in emergency shelter facilities of one sort or another. And it includes youth that are in transitional housing programs. And the youth we had with us tonight are examples of some of those youth in transitional housing programs. In rough terms, slightly over half of the youth we surveyed had been wards of the state at some time. And somewhat disturbingly, about 3/4 of those youth had either witnessed or experienced household trauma of one form or another. For about half of those young people, there had been addiction, alcohol or drug abuse in their families of origin. And of the kids we surveyed, and we had 78 surveys completed this year, 33 of those kids were or had been homeless. And just to give a little bit of a bigger and broader scope here, SPS's numbers for homeless youth, per the McKinney-Vento definition, which includes kids that are living doubled up, is 667 students in high school. So while we certainly didn't count all of the homeless youth and at-risk youth in Springfield, we do feel that chances are some of the answers we got are representative of those youth's lived experiences. And we're lucky enough tonight to have some of the young people from our Youth Action Board, the Phoenix, with us. And these are young people with lived experience of homelessness. And they're here to share their stories and, more importantly, their thoughts on what we're doing right as systems of care and, well, what we're not. As sadly, that's true too, no matter how hard we work at it. And we're still waiting for two, but I'm going to go ahead and hand my mic off to Holly, who is kind enough to facilitate this discussion. But we'd be more than happy as well. We do have a few questions prepared, but we're more than happy to take audience questions. I know the youth would be happy to share or provide feedback on services you're providing, on your thoughts, your questions. And let's get on with it.
All right. All right, thanks for coming. Come on in. Come on in, we saved you a spot. There's a seat there and a seat here. Thanks for coming, you two. All right, the one right there. All right, so this is amazing, guys. I am so excited we have such a good turnout here. And so first of all, I want to thank you guys for being here. And second, I want to make sure and thank you guys for being brave enough to come. They are definitely a resource for us. You know, a lot of us can think what they might need or why they might become homeless, but really we don't know. Having them giving us the answers and giving us some insights and letting us know how best we maybe could have helped them is really I think it's the path we need to take to be able to help the others that are currently homeless and who might down the road come across some of the same issues. So I'm going to ask some questions. And how it's going to work, guys, is, you know, if you have something you want to say, we can pass the mic around. Miss Jess over there's got a mic. What are some of the factors that led to you guys becoming homeless? Who would like to start? All right, Daisy.
One of the factors was, growing up, like, family-wise, I think I raised myself through a lot of it. And, a lot of the things with, my parents, they weren't exactly there. So, trying to at least stay around so I at least knew someone, because I've been through the foster care system before and it just wasn't really what I felt I needed. But, I made the decision to, after seeing my parents get taken away, to leave. And, I only did it because I felt like if I didn't, then I wouldn't be able to get to where I am now. And, being homeless, it brought its setbacks and everything, but I think I did more for myself than I did if I were to be still living with my family. And, I still tried to go back and see how they were doing, but, they kind of resented me after I wanted to check up on them, and it kind of just made it to where I was officially kind of on my own. And I think overall, if I were to be still living with them, based on the situation, how bad it's gotten so far, I think it'd be the 50-50 chance of me actually being alive today. So.
Thank you, Tyson. Anybody else want to share some of the factors that led to homelessness for you?
Hi, my name's Nathan. Some of the factors that led to me being homeless, I had a home, I had family, everything was fine. There was just a lot of conflict of interests. Sometimes you can't help who your parents are or who you are, and sometimes those will clash just a little bit. I wasn't gonna abandon the person that I was with because if I had removed them from my home because they were staying with me, then they would have been homeless, and it was a matter of, well, do we let them go by themselves and be homeless, or will I go and be with them and make sure that they're all right? And sometimes it's just to help out other people, not letting someone go through that alone.
Thank you. Anybody else? And also, I also want to point out, this doesn't have to be necessarily your experience of what factors you've seen, but also other young people that you might have come across that, if you have any factors that have led to homelessness for other people as well. So as we're asking these questions, it doesn't have to be your own personal experience always. Okay? What about the greatest challenge you've come across while you guys were on the streets, or maybe couch surfing? Some of the challenges or some of the obstacles or the difficulties you've come across.
Oh no, you're first. My name's Cherokee. My greatest challenge was trying to figure out where my food was. Before Great Circle came in, I didn't even know there was a place that could help me. So I slept at a park for a day and then went couch to friend, trying to figure out where I was going to get the money and is my brothers and sisters going to be okay, and if what they're going to do and stuff like that. But now I'm better and have a place and everything because thanks to Great Circle, and I really appreciate it.
My name is Sierra. For me personally, because I became homeless not by myself. I was with my mother when I first became homeless. And the challenges with that, we started couch surfing because we had really nowhere else to go. And one of my biggest struggles at first was my stuff getting stolen. Because we went from having a pretty decent life, middle class, we had, so I had stuff, and all of it basically got taken away from me because of some of the shady people I was living with. One of the other difficulties and struggles was dealing with drugs being around, because I didn't want any part of that. So I was having to deal with trying to get away from that, and eventually I moved in with my boyfriend. And then we were out of his place and back on the streets again. So we went from that to being around drugs and adults that weren't safe. For a lot of youth, it's not about them personally just being headstrong and wanting to, leave parents because there's a disagreement in the home or because of just some sort of minor conflict. Is a lot of the stigma is oh, homeless youth left because they're stubborn or because they're defiant. A lot of it's because we don't feel safe. So for a lot of the people I have met personally, being at the Great Circle and stuff, a lot of children were taken away from their homes because they weren't safe. But for me and my boyfriend, we chose to leave that situation so we could find safety, and because my boyfriend at the time, he was 18, I was only 17 when I left, and one of my greatest struggles of the entire situation was healthcare, the healthcare system when you are underage, they want to get in contact with your parents and with your family. Well, there is a thing where, yes, being a qualified minor, because emancipation does not exist in Missouri, unfortunately. And it caused a great struggle because they had to get in contact with my parents, and I had no contact with them. So it was very difficult to try and get medical help and attention being underage and homeless. So, yeah.
Anybody else? Jason? Thank you, Sierra.
One of the struggles, I think, being homeless, it wasn't just for me, because I knew about 2 or 3 other people who were kind of going through the same thing, is when you're under the age of 18 and you're out on the streets, whether you're couch surfing or actually sleeping outside, I think the biggest problem that I knew I had was, first off, the shelters. When you go to these shelters, they kind of have to ask, exactly how old you are. In my case, I looked really young, and I was young. So being at the shelters, it was a liability for me to be there for them. If I would have got hurt, I could have potentially closed the shelter down. And I felt kind of worried being there, because a lot of people being homeless, if you have a different mindset than them, and since I didn't feel like I fit in with them as much. So I was always kind of on my feet, trying to keep moving, trying to find jobs, and it was really struggling for me. But when there wasn't those kind of options for me, it was kind of just like bunkering down and trying to keep out of the eye of the public, because when you're out there, you're really scared of social services kind of taking you away, if you know like what the process of it is. And if you've been in foster care, it might not be, especially if you had like a traumatic event being in foster care, it can, you want to avoid it. So with the shelters and trying to stay out of the eye of the public, it's difficult. But I think one of the things, like personally for me, was the seasons. I spent almost an entire year and a couple of months after that outside, and I had things like blankets and it was like a foil wrap that I was in to keep me warm and everything. But it wasn't enough, and especially when winter came around, those were the hardest months. And I felt like it was preventing me to do the things I needed to do. And, it just got me to where I felt like I was really hopeless at the time. So I think soon around I was 17, I got really fed up of it, because, winter was, it was August, and, I just didn't see me really going forward any more than I already was. So I finally went into a shelter, and I had to lie to get in, and I wasn't okay with that in any kind of way. So, but I know a lot of people do face these kind of problems. Overall, it's just not having the support from other people kind of just really brings you down. You don't see a future for yourself. So,
Thank you. We're really wondering what maybe you could have done, maybe what could have been in place, or maybe could have been available, or maybe you didn't know. What could have been done so we could have prevented you from becoming homeless at all? Anybody have any thoughts on what maybe could have been done? Maybe talking to the school, having some things, knowing where to go.
When I had the chance, I could have done what a lot of people told me to, tell the DHS multiple times, even though that one time, even though they think it wasn't, but tell them multiple times what was going on with the drug issue and the abuse and everything, listen to people. But the only thing I thought of is, what happens if I leave my brothers and sisters? What are they going to do? Who's going to take care of them? So I was always one there trying to help and stuff, even though my stepdad was there, but not there. I should explain. And yeah, so I should have told sooner than waiting, thinking I have to put everything on my shoulders and do everything myself.
Probably, I feel like the best way of avoiding youth homelessness would be making the resources a bit more. I don't know how to say it. Like making the knowledge of the resources a bit more accessible. Because I know for Sierra and I, at least, as soon as we found out about the Great Circle, one of her friends who lived in another state, he sent us a link to the Great Circle and was like, "Hey, I think these people could help you out." And as soon as we found out about it, we were put in the shelter and we were off the street. And I feel like if we could have found that weeks, months sooner, we could have circumvented a lot of the issues. And I know sometimes if you are homeless, you're not going to have a smartphone. You're not going to have the connections or the friends in other states who can help you with those things. And if you don't know about them and you're not actively seeking out those specific types of resources, because I never would have thought to Google anything about like housing programs or anything like that. So if those were a bit more readily available, I feel like that could help a lot of people out.
Do you have any thoughts about how we could make it more readily available?
Possibly sponsored posts. Social media is really prevalent. Flyers on bus stops, places where homeless youth would frequent. I know, like Walmart parking lots, McDonald's, a lot of those places with free Wi-Fi, like homeless youth will generally tend to flock towards that, because if they've got a smartphone and no service, Wi-Fi is generally like where they'll all congregate at some point. Public libraries, little bookmarks, stuff like that, just little things that they can take with them, not solely just digital things as well.
Something else that can be helpful and that would have helped me is basically just like adults more or less just listening, because there were a lot of times when I was clearly in need. Like there were some times when I hadn't bathed in a while and I would go to school and like, other people knew, like you felt gross, like you looked kind of like, you haven't showered in a while. So if like you could like easily communicate, there needs to be better training in like schools and just public settings for people who have access to resources to be able to, come up and discreetly talk to a youth, or like give them a flyer or a pamphlet or some sort of something. And that's what like some of the things that we're working on in the Phoenix is like better youth outreach and like just stuff like that, because it can be very, very difficult to try and communicate with other like adults. And when you're in a situation and that other people can tell, the fact that no one else is trying to reach out and help you can really drag you down. Like what Tyson was saying, when you don't have that support or anyone there to reach out to you, if you don't know what resources are out there and no one else is seemingly trying to help you, then you're just kind of stuck there. So just, I don't know, maybe some sort of training classes for adults in like schools and stuff like that, or like public resource, like libraries, where like people are going to flock for like the free Wi-Fi and for help anyway. So
Thanks. And just real quick, you mentioned the Phoenix, and I don't know if people know what the Phoenix is. So maybe you can just talk a minute about what the Phoenix was, since you brought it up.
Okay. All right. So the Phoenix is our youth advisory board up here in Springfield. We are trying to do like better outreach. Like we are a board of youth trying to help youth through homelessness, or just before you get there. Like if you're already there, we're trying to help you get out of that. And if you think you might fall into it, like try to get you the resources and help that you need, so you're not so you can avoid getting there as much as possible, or get you help if you are there. Just generally trying to outreach, like get people into the Phoenix, get people help, just trying to make a difference.
Thanks. On the flip side, I asked, what we could have done differently, but what has discouraged you from seeking out help? And you kind of touched on that a little bit, Cherokee, but does anybody else have anything that maybe discouraged you from seeking help?
One of the things that I've noticed, I haven't really had that much of an experience going through it, but I do know it's something that prevents other minors from kind of seeking help is the age restrictions. A lot of I feel like it's the biggest issue, because a lot of the times if you go into a service that's willing to help you, your choices are very limited and you can't really do anything, and it scares the people away that are trying to help or get help. And if you don't have the option of A or B, then I think if there was more of an option, because homeless people already have to make their own decisions in order to get through the day. So if you take away that option, it just I don't know. I think that's a really big problem when it comes to actually accepting help. Your rights, in a way, kind of get taken from you. So.
I think another way that discourages them is that teenagers have been told no so many times or been hurt that they don't want to be hurt by any more adults, and they want to try to handle things themselves. So, yeah.
Anybody else have anything? That's a question. So on a positive, let's talk about maybe what some of your goals and aspirations are. Where do you guys see yourself for the next few years?
One thing I've learned from transitioning out of homelessness and into a bit more stability, just need to work on my credit. Didn't know that.
We all.
Apparently adults think that's funny. Every time I say that, someone laughs.
That issue just doesn't change.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. Sorry. Need to work on credit, then just stability. Goals and aspirations. I don't have any delusions of grandeur. Like, I'm not trying to drive a Ferrari in the next 15 years. I just want a little beater car that can get me back point A, point B. I want to be able to take care of this one over here. And, like, we got a cat, hopefully keep that thing alive. Just kind of taking the skills that I've learned from being here in the Phoenix, the wonderful people at the Great Circle helping us just get our act together, I didn't think I would be where I am today already, so just keep going,
What was the question again?
Your goals and aspirations.
My goals is I'm hoping of using the skills that Great Circle and then Miss Jess has given me to move on from this experience and getting a better job and finishing high school and going to college and doing something really important. Maybe one day have my name in a book or in the history or something. Who knows? But yeah.
For me, my goals and aspirations are, because I'm an artist, I do a lot of artsy stuff, like whether it be crafts or painting, I try and do it all, experiment. But I want to start a little business and eventually be able to grow that and do maybe commissions and stuff like that. Eventually, I'm hoping to maybe get married and have my own little family, but talk about that later.
Wow, that's pressure. Yeah, good cat first.
But just in general, just trying to get out of where I am now and trying to get, somewhere better. Like what Nathan was saying, we're not looking to be the best, but at least be better than where we have been. It's always an opportunity to grow, whether it be for personal or for the community. There's always an opportunity to do better and get better and achieve something. Small steps can, eventually lead to great leaps.
I like that. Yeah, write that down.
One of the main goals I think that I've kind of always had, even when I was with my family, is to kind of start a family of my own. I know if you have a bad background and a bad past related to your own family, I think one thing to strive for, if you're able to, is to try to give your potential family or a family that you really want everything that you never had growing up. And that's something I really want to do. I don't know about Ferraris or anything, but I mean, overall, everything that I never got to experience with the care and compassion and the love that I missed out on, I want to be able to give that to someone who can use that, can need it. And I think, you know, now that I've had the opportunity to get out of homelessness and make it to where like these things are now available, I think there's an endless amount of things that me and the rest of these guys here can do, and even other people still in homelessness, is, you know, college and the military and all these other things like careerment, and just overall there's an endless amount of things you can do to strive for. And I think, you know, so far what Great Circles has done and other organizations like it, bringing youth out of the hole that they were in before, I think it's going to open up their future a lot more than what they can do on their own. So,
thanks, guys. So let's talk about what you want, you know, these folks and maybe other people in the community to know what homeless. What do you want to know about homeless youth in general?
Is that I think most kids should not be afraid to go get help when they really need it, and they're there for good bed when out in the cold. They have a bed, they have a blanket, clothing. Like Great Circle, they have like 4 to 3 different clothing closets for little kids down to older. There's food there when they need it. Plus snacks and stuff. I thought that was the great part about it. And then they get you back and forth where you need to go, so you're not just stuck on your own like most youths think. Oh, I have to do this, because that was my problem. I was always worried about what am I going to do, where am I going to go. But then I had Miss Fortunate and Miss Jess saying, hey, this is like a vacation you've never had, let us deal with it. And then I was like, okay. And I had to like take a step back. It's like, I'm not the adult no more, I am the kid. And so they helped me through so much to get into the Social Security office, just transportation, and then taught me how to ride the city bus again and all that. Yeah.
Not all homeless youth are going to look like what you think. Whenever I was couch surfing with Sierra, I mean, like, I didn't look homeless. I tried to keep myself very well kept. I tried to wear nice things because whenever you're in that situation, I feel like it's like a big secret. You don't want anyone to know that you're homeless or that you're couch surfing. Like, so you'll try and hide it. So a lot of the other people that I knew that have been through this, they've gotten like hand-me-down like Jordans or like really nice clothes, like name brand things, to try and make them, try to elevate the appearance of their status. And I feel like the ones that do that are the ones that need help the most, because they've got such an unhealthy stigma in their head against like homeless equals bad. And it's all right to need some help. Like, I don't know. I'm not great with speaking.
Something that like everyone needs to take a step back and understand about like homeless youth is like, we're not all just stubborn or doing it because, oh, you know, my mom said I couldn't go bowling with my friends at like 8 o'clock. But like, there's usually a lot of other issues going on other than just the kid being like, oh, I don't want to deal with adults. Like, and that's a problem I've faced like a lot with a lot of other adults that weren't trying to help me. They just kind of like seen me and were just like, you're a homeless youth. What'd you do? Get grounded for a week and decide to leave? Like, no, I was unsafe. I was unhappy. Like, there was a lot of issues going on. And something else, like, a lot of these youth, like, are scared. They're very scared about what's going to happen, because when you're on the streets or when you're couch surfing, there are so many things that can go wrong. You can be taken advantage of by way of financial, like if you get a job, whoever you're living with can be like, hey, give me half your paycheck. And like, yeah, you might see that as rent, but when you're only making like 7 something an hour, it's, you know, all that money you could use to get, you know, yourself somewhere else, like, is being taken from you. You're being taken advantage of. Or you can be taken advantage of in other ways, like sexually, or, you know, it's unfortunate, but it does happen a lot. And I've heard of people who, you know, have been in very, very unfortunate situations, and they couldn't get out because no one would like listen to them, or they were too scared to try and reach out and get the help they needed. So just something to keep in mind whenever you encounter someone who, you know, just in general, everyday life, like everyone has different experiences and different, like, everyone's been through their own stuff. Everyone's continuing to go through their own stuff. So just keep that in mind. You know, not everyone's like doing it because they're stubborn, but there could be a lot of other stuff going on.
Okay, thanks, guys. So what can people, if they want to help homeless youth, what can people do to help?
Food, clothing. Sorry, I love
Snacks.
food. Yeah, snacks. No, joking. A place, or at least sometimes an ear to listen to when you need help. Because that's my biggest problem is I was afraid that most people are like my mom or my dad, that they say they're there, they're listening to me, but every time I talk to them, it's either I get yelled at or something thrown at me, or no, that's this, or no, that's wrong, or you're just disgraced or something. Just an ear to listen, and then maybe have somebody else take the wheel for once and help you.
Taking a chance on them. I know whenever I first came into the Great Circle, I feel like they kind of took a chance on me because I wasn't a very stable person at all. I was half insane from all the stress of being homeless, trying to figure out how I was gonna feed her, how I was gonna take care of everything, how I was gonna keep our car running, keep gas in it, so I get back and forth to work. I mean, I was caught up in the wrong people and on drugs, and I feel like we're not trying to like promote Great Circle. We're just all kind of like a part of them, so they keep coming up. If they hadn't taken the chance on us and helped us out, like Tyson said, you know, I don't think I'd be alive to this day. I'd just delve deeper, further into what I was doing and the bad people that I was around. And it's just not and it's not always a cookie cutter thing for every single homeless youth too. Like Tyson's situation, Dakota's, Sierra's, Cherokee's, and mine, none of it's the same. Sierra and I's story is basically the same, but that's because we're like halfway entwined with it. You know, we've been rocking for like 4 years together. So it's just not every solution is going to fit for everyone, and not everyone needs the same type of help. Like one person may just need like words of encouragement for them to go get it themselves. The other person might need someone to actually like, hey, come on, let's go do this. Like, this is how you adult. Just communication.
Call them out.
I know for me, one of the issues was not having the self-motivation or self-confidence to ask somebody. So just having somebody ask me if I was okay or needed help, anything like that, gave me a huge push. Before I came into the TLP program, I was actually staying in a hotel with my family. And it was a very bad spot. And Miss Jess actually messaged me and asked if I would like to do the TLP program. So just with that question, kind of gave me a more outlook on life, or maybe a better outlook on life. Just kind of a second chance to do something. Because I'm with Tyson and Nathan. If it wasn't for that, I don't know if I'd be alive today, in prison, or what.
Thanks, guys. I know it's all hard to talk about some of these things. Does anybody have questions that we'd like to ask? Anybody have anything? We can kind of open it up, or if there's anything else that you guys want to add or share, this would be the time to do it.
Anything.
Yes. Yeah.
Question. It's not fully developed, so bear with me as I think and talk at the same time. So you guys talked about some like basic things that you needed when you like first got connected to resources. And maybe this wasn't the case for everybody, but I work in the mental health field, so I'm just curious, like at what point did you feel like you were like safe and stable enough to get the resources you need, and like how would you help someone know like that they're ready maybe to get mental health treatment? Did that come out making any sense?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Recently I had to go, cause like me personally, I've lived with mental health issues my entire life, and it's been like an uphill battle the entire time. And recently, like I got really, really bad. Like my depression got to where I couldn't get out of bed, and like I couldn't function as like a human being. And before I was able to actually get into the Great Circle and like the TLP and work with the Phoenix and just all of it, it got pretty bad. So like it's you don't need to wait necessarily until it gets to the point where you want to die or to where you can't function. You need to be able to reach out regardless of whether it's just like a one-time occurrence of, oh, you know, I thought some really dark thoughts today, or like you're on the edge of a bridge. Like you need to get help regardless. And like my advice to youth and just anyone in general, if you're struggling with any sort of mental health issues or physical health issues, like go get help. Don't wait until it's months down the line or years down the line, or even a week later can be too late. And if you know anyone that's struggling, or know any youth or even adults, anyone really, like encourage them to seek help. Because that was one of my issues, was I was really afraid to get help. I was afraid to, you know, let people know what was really going on because it was a really dark time. And I know I've had a lot of friends who have also needed the help, but have had issues going to receive it because they were scared of what other people might think or say. So just don't wait until it's too late. And you know, just always try and push forward, do your best. Like for some people, it's like cleaning the house. Like that's their deal. Like they can't clean their house because they're too upset or depressed, or, you know, like even just picking up like some trash off the floor and throwing it away, or doing the dishes. Like everything, you know, like I was saying, like small steps can lead to great leaps.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
I have a question for Cherokee. You mentioned your brothers and sisters several times, and you also obviously been very concerned about them. And you've been able to access some support to help you. Have they been able to get any support also? Are they too young to be able to do some of the things that you've been able to access? Or?
Well, yeah,
And also, you don't have to say anything too personal.
It's
Just to
Yeah, if it's
clarify
okay.
this, that we don't need to go into our.
when I left, I talked to the school, Mr. McCoy, my principal. He's the first person that I trust at school. He was like the first person that I'd leap little details, and like he knew, but I didn't give enough details for him to do anything about it until the one day I came to school and I had bruises all over me and on my face from my mother. And then I told him, and then DHS got in contact and they said they were going to do something about it and everything. And I haven't heard back from them, but I thought about calling them or seeing them at one point, but I don't. I have to wait and see if I'm emotionally and physically ready.
I just know you sounded very concerned about them.
Yeah,
which is-
I really am. They're like, I've pretty much raised them since I was little.
I think going back to that one question about being able to seek help mentally after getting out of homelessness, if that was the way it was phrased, I don't really know. But one of the things that I kind of got into. When I was homeless, I found great circles up in Joplin, and I was still 17 at the time, so I was getting really close to turning 18, and I think we set a couple goals, like employment wise and mental health issues and stuff like that, and I didn't feel like, based on my past, I had that much to really think about, but I do suffer from kind of like a reverse effect of anxiety in a way. If like I'm used to havoc and chaotic environments where, just I have to be on my guard. And now being into this safer environment where I feel more alone, I've noticed a really dramatic spike in how my anxiety affects me on a daily basis. So staying busy for me is a necessity. I have to keep moving. And one of the things that I was afraid of at the time, trying to work on one of my goals with Great Circles for the mental health issue, is being 17. And as soon as I got in, I immediately turned 18. When I got in with Borough, which is a health institution, I was afraid of, at the time, speaking to someone and trying to resolve this issue in some way, because being 17, I know my anxiety and all my problems pretty much mentally were caused by medication, and I have like an extreme phobia of medication, pharmaceutical, of anything. And I knew if I were to see a psychologist, they would immediately look at my past diagnoses and just say, hey, you were once bipolar, so we're going to give you, some kind of pills for anger or ADHD or even depression. I was diagnosed with so many things, and it was really just the side effect from the pill, the last one. So, and I'm not going to go into depth about that, but with not having the option, I think being 17, I was really worried, because you had to have been 18 in order to say no pills. And now that I'm able to, I am going to someone and talking about my issues, and I'm even going a little bit further than I thought I would at the time. And now I'm hopefully gonna be able to start dealing with my phobias, at least now that I have someone to help me out with the medical knowledge of what some of these pills and even things actually do. I'm getting help in trying to learn about these things, and hopefully that will go well. But back then I didn't have the security within myself to go out and say, hey, I need help, without them making decisions for me, which is another problem with overall youth and homelessness, is people making decisions for you. And if I were to get mental health from Borough being 17, I would probably almost be guaranteed on pills right now, and that's something I'm really terrified of. But since I'm 18, I said no, and I was able to do that, and I plan on avoiding that to the point to where I'd feel okay with it at some point. But I think now that I reached that kind of barrier in age, I'm able to get more help. And I think if more youth were kind of able to say no to something they know isn't going to help them in a way, I think it'd be kind of beneficial. And with taking services from other people in a way, whether it be employment, because I know like 12-year-olds that can work almost, if not harder than me, and that's saying a lot. And I think it just depends on how your mindset is. I mean, I didn't feel like I needed it before I got help, but I realized I can't do everything on my own. But I think youth in general will feel more open to gathering help from other people if they had an option and a say in what help they receive. So.
Good. Anybody else? Yes.
So some of these programs that you guys have talked about, like the Great Circle, is that what it's called? I'm trying to just visualize, is that a longer term solution? Like if somebody, became homeless at 13 or 14, could you actually be in that and attend high school and, do that? Or is it like after a couple of months you'd be pulled out of that and forced to explore foster care or something like that?
Well, for Great Circle in general, it's like it is mostly used for children that are already in the system. But for people like me and my boyfriend, we were already homeless. They're an emergency shelter, and they can, for us, since we were older, they can put you through to like the TLP program, which is a temporary, Empowering Youth, which Empowering Youth was what we went through first. Because we were older, we were allowed to just come and go from the facility as we pleased. And he was old enough to have already graduated high school, but I was still in high school. And since Great Circle is right by Parkview, which was where I actually graduated from, but they will help you go to school. After you get out of high school, they will help you go into college. Like, they'll help you, like, apply and stuff. But if you're, like, 13, 14, I'm not sure exactly how that works because I was older at the time. But
Yeah, I'll quickly answer. If we couldn't keep a homeless youth of 13 to 14 for a long period of time, we'd be seeking out other resources. When they're older, 17, 18, and they don't have another family member, we're helping them seek out a support system if possible. So maybe a grandma or an aunt or an old teacher or whatever they might be able to stay with. If that's not available, then we'll look for other avenues, which in our Change of Living program may be one of those. But the answer is no. If you were 13, you could not stay there and go through high school and grow up there. That's not what we are. We would be seeking out other resources for that young person.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if they're 13 and they just needed a place for them to stay for a little bit so their parents could get together, so the case manager works with them and everything. Yeah, but they can't stay there until they get old or whatever, but it works that way so the parents can get their self together, get their life checked.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. All right.
We work with families
Cool.
as well. So families
Yeah.
can bring their children if they need to for a short amount of time while they get back on their feet. And then the kids would hopefully go back with their family.
Yeah.
They're very good ambassadors. I don't even know what to say all these things. It's like I'm going to slip them some money when they go out the door or something.
Sponsored.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. All right, other questions? Yes.
I'm curious if in all the programs that you're gone through, has any other youth who's found themselves in your shoes come back to kind of mentor or encourage you through their story to let you know that they've made that journey through?
Like through the specific program we're in?
Or that this particular situation where you're navigating being homeless and trying to do education and jobs and finding housing and things like that. Has any youth who has had this journey before come back and been able to encourage you? And if not, would that be something that you guys would find encouraging to see someone at the other end of this journey a little bit further so they could give you that encouragement?
Well, wow, rude. For us personally, because we are basically the first youth in the Phoenix and we have been the first in TLP. Like, we were the first in TLP. He just got out like this month, I think. Yeah, it was this month, and I'm leaving at the end of this. I'm leaving at the end of this one. So, since we are the first youth to come through this, we don't really have any other youth that have come back because, we're the first. But what we're doing in the Phoenix, and we're gonna basically stay in the Phoenix to help the community until, we age out. But that's what we hope to do, is we hope to be able for the youth that come after us to be able to still help them and be like, hey, we're the living proof that this works, that, we received help and we come from various backgrounds, like whether it be drug or family abuse or, just like your family didn't have the money or whatever. Like, we're living proof that, like, you can get help and be successful and, go to college or, get a good job, get a home, like, do stuff on your own, but still be able to get help and, be successful. So we hope for, like, the youth after us that, like, we'll give them hope.
Well, I'm hoping for all of us is that we'll come back if Miss Jess or Miss Crees, hey, call us up, hey, we need someone to talk for these young, saying, hey, it's okay to ask for help, or lead them, or tell them about a little bit of our story and saying, hey, this is a good thing for them to get help, and tell them what we've been through and everything to help them. Hopefully they'll call us back, be like, hey, would you want to talk? They need some pushing, some grooving. Like, yeah, I'm coming.
They're getting comfortable now. Getting warmed up. Yeah.
I just lost what I was going to say. Oh, okay, I got it. So to kind of stay on the same lines but kind of go off of it, being in foster care, state custody, all that fun stuff, just going placement to placement and just talking to the staff, and if you actually just sit down and talk to them, you find out that a lot of them just come from the backgrounds that we do. They've experienced homelessness and been in the system, so I feel like that helps when you're the youth in our situation, just kind of hear how far they've gone with their life in terms of what you could do and what you will do.
Good. Any question back here?
So when we talk about a history of adults potentially being unsafe, do you have any advice to anybody that would want to help a youth that they may encounter in terms of approach?
Okay, some of us would be caution, so I'd be maybe like if I was going to ask, slowly ease into it. Like for Mr. McCoy and my sake, he would talk to me, but slowly, and I would sometimes not realize I'd drop hints about, hey, this is what's going on, and then I was like, dang it, he did it again. And then I would have to shut up and be quiet until, so it's just easily ease into it until you can work in knowing that the youth, young one, can trust you enough, because most of us, we've been hurt by adults and don't know. Sometimes, in my case, I didn't know, I thought all adults were the same, that they're just mean and just wanting out to hurt me all the time and just don't care if they did. Like, my feelings were just trash and all that. But finding out from Great Circle and everyone that, no, not all adults are that way. There's people out there to help you and everything, and I've gotten a lot better to talking to adults. But, yeah, just ease in and slowly work it. It might take a year or so with Mr. McCoy, but it eventually happened.
And like Cherokee was saying, you need to ease into it, and like something like that, like through I Pour Life, like we would go and like get coffee and stuff like that to like talk and stuff. But like if you're trying to get like a youth to open up, like maybe take them out somewhere like they would enjoy like going, like maybe bowling, or or maybe like out to lunch. Like it doesn't have to be anything fancy, like McDonald's even, and just talk, like just kind of listen, let them know that you're there for them. But like Cherokee was saying, like ease into it. Don't just, hey, I see that you're homeless, you need help. Like, just be very cautious, and also be very like, I don't know, like empathetic, like be like, it's a very sensitive subject for a lot of youth, because a lot of them have come from dangerous situations. And like Cherokee was saying, we've been hurt by adults before. And some of them have, in my personal like situation, have been like, yeah, we're here to help you. And then they've kind of ruined that, and it's made me a bit anxious to try and reach out again. So just be cautious and be safe, and just like let them know you're there. And if they don't want to open up to you like right then, work on building trust. And that's really all you can do, like build trust and try and get to know them a little better, and try and figure out what they need.
One of the things, I'm honestly not sure word for word what your question was, but I think by saying this will kind of get to your point. But going and accepting help, and I think approaching the youth, kind of acquiring these services in a way. How to exactly reach them, I feel like this is something I've dealt with before. I just don't remember the specific details of it, but a lot of times when a social worker or someone in case management trying to help someone else, I've heard of situations where they find the problem and they say, hey, I'm here to help you. They leave for like a week and come back with this, and this, and these are plans that you weren't kept in the loop on. You don't know like in detail like what needs to be done. So like for instance, if a caseworker offered me help, if they left and came back to me next week, and I could be sitting on the couch and just waiting for what they brought back for me. I don't know exactly. I'd rather be kept in the loop and kind of fed the information of my options in general, and what, because they don't know if they have the option of sending me to a nearby shelter or going into the system with social services again, or foster care. I think if I had an opinion on that, both seem a little bit overwhelming to me, but if it were in the case of the social worker does not know if that foster family is going to be right for them. They don't know exactly what can happen, and then that person who's being told, hey, this is your option, you might want to take it, it just seems like the youth might be able to figure out, or they need to at least ask kind of like, hey, what do you think you need? And I think that goes like a little bit over unnoticed sometimes, because it just, I know a lot of people, they don't, they're not sure what they need, but some of them really do. And when you give them the option of doing something, I think if you don't keep them in the loop and you found like 2 other things that you thought might not have worked for them, they might have seen that and been like, hey, I need that instead of what you're offering now. And I don't know, that's something I think needs to be kind of worked on if you're trying to approach youth with a service that might help them. So
what I heard you say is, as case management or social services, listen to the youth or anybody, what their needs are, and then as we research and look into different things, put everything on the table.
Yeah.
And work through the options, and then let that person say, kind of do the pros and cons for each and figure out what works best for them. Is that?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good insight. Yes.
I have a follow-up. Yep. So literally, if someone saw someone standing on the street and they thought, I feel like I'm recognizing some things that I may see as indicators, literally approaching that person, what is the best thing to say?
Ooh.
Your street outreach, you got this.
In my experience, whenever because I'm street outreach coordinator for the Phoenix, so I deal with this exactly. Like, well, no, say it like that. Kind of just bring something with them. Like a lot of them, they want something to eat. They want a drink. Have like a backpack with like some mini bottles of water. Just throw them $1. $1 is gold to homeless people. Like, you can get like, come to them with some type of offering. Really, that's a really great icebreaker, because a lot of the time they don't want people to just talk to them. They're kind of up in their own little bubble. But if you're like, hey, I see you might want something to you want something to eat, and then they're like, oh yeah, thanks, and then that opens up the, hey, are you all right? What's going on? Like, I know of some resources, because a lot of the time if you just walk up to someone and you're like, oh, what up? I see that you're on the street. You should go here. They'll help you out. Like that. It comes off as a little crass. It's not very polite light, because like, yeah, they're in a bad situation, but they still deserve decent respect. I'm not going to walk up to you and we're in your home, because essentially the street is their home, and just start yelling at you. I feel like it's important to approach and impactfulness really matter with it. And I don't remember who said it, be empathetic. Don't be sympathetic towards them. Be empathetic. Be like, I understand the situation you're in. Don't be like, oh, that sucks. Because that's sympathy. That's feeling sorry for them. And plenty of people do that already. They want someone who's going to understand and help them, like, come up through it. But yeah, offerings are a great icebreaker, is the gist of that.
Like you said, food helps everybody. I know it helps me. It puts a smile on my face. But yeah, my grandpa, he has this thing called $100 smile. So for like money for us, it's like a big smile. It's saying, hey, thanks for helping, and come back. If they're like in the same spot for a couple of days, come back and offer it easy, and you can talk to them like, hey, and this, and then ease it in like, hey, I can help you. And plus Gray Circle has these little bags that has little water bottles, food and stuff in it for people on the streets and stuff. But yeah, coming back easily, like I said, easing it in, helping them works very tremendously.
And I know something that we personally have, like, through the Phoenix, is we have, like, these maps of resources, and we also have, like, these little bracelets that have, like, the Empowering Youth phone number and whatnot on them. They're pretty nifty. But we got stuff like that we're able to hand out, and that we do hand out. We need more of them, please. But, if we see anyone that, like, we have, any sort of anything, like, me and Nathan, like, sometimes we'll have, like, granola bars on us and stuff like that. And we'll be like, instead of being like, oh, hey, do you want this? We're like, oh, hey, we have this extra and we're not going to eat it. Do you want it? Like, giving them the option to always say no. Like, and that's something else that's big. Like, you have to give someone the option to, like, even if you want to help them and you can see that they clearly need help, giving them the option to be like, no, I don't want it right now. Because, like what Cherokee said, if you see them there multiple times, like, trying to, like, approach them repeatedly, like, not in, like, a creepy way, but, like, don't be creepy. That's one of the other things. Don't be creepy. Yeah, I see you here every day, but give you this. Take my help. But just now. But, like, don't be creepy, but, like, try and help. And if they say no, then, but just keep trying. Eventually, they're either going to break and be like, yes, help me, or they're going to be like, no, please leave me alone. And then you're like, okay, I mean, you clearly don't want to be messed with, so I'm just going to go. But always, yeah, like what everyone else was saying, like, bring some sort of, like, offering or food, whether it be, like, a bracelet with a phone number on it, or a map of resources, or, like, some snacks, or a bottle of water, or just something helps.
Good. Other questions? Anything else that you guys want to share? All right. How about we give it up for these amazing young people? I have a feeling they're going to meet most of their goals and aspirations. I'm really proud of them. So yeah, if you guys... I think we have some information if you guys want to know more about our homeless and at-risk youth survey. Hopefully you guys will check it out. We're really important information on it, and we are planning on doing it every year so that we can kind of see what our trends are of how we can better help them and stay on top of youth homelessness in our area. So thank you guys for coming. We really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, you can stick around and ask if you have anything. Thanks, guys.